Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the 83rd episode of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart or Midlothian. Joining you, as always, is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and my co-host, Alan Scrimger. Alan, how are you doing, my man? How are those fucking strong legs of yours, sir?
Aye, mate, I'm good. I'm good. Cheers for that, by the way.
Aye, well.
It was a interesting weekend, as can be seen by the ultimate opportunity to gloat. But also, one thing, and I'll mention it right now. I was the second fastest Alan in the race of 1,000 people. So, if anybody knows the fastest one, I'm gonna find them. But
Well,
I'm fully recovered. So, cheers.
good stuff, man. Well, on that note, was a very well done, sir. As until this morning, it's the first day that Alan has actually taken off his the medal. Yeah, man, honestly, very well done for that. It was a marathon run, and also what a marathon of a season it has been as well. For all of those Hearts fans, as we know, it's been a week of a mix of disappointment. Fuck, the season's over, but also a sigh of it was a relief as well, as at the weekend there, the season has drawn to a close, with Hearts was finalising their position in the league in fourth place. For all of those who watched and went to Ibrox last Wednesday there to pick up a, let's say, somewhat surprising 2-2 draw against the Rangers, and also a fucking shithousery Edinburgh derby, as we've seen in quite a long time, just at the weekend there to wrap up the season with a 1-1 draw to Hibs at Tynecastle. So those are going to be our main topics for this episode, and we'll give you an insight to what we're going to be doing throughout this summer as well, and for next week was a podcast as well, where you guys can have the chance to get involved as well. So yeah, we're going to run that down, and we do hope you enjoy as always. And before we get started, as always, with the necessities, if you aren't subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will be in the description and on screen as always. So Alan, you and me, let's say, fucking ran to the pub on the Wednesday evening as we got into town. Like like 20 minutes before we could actually was find a pub. Was it, as we ended up in the Haymarket, and we literally, out of all the times to actually watch Hearts play at Ibrox, 60 seconds in, and we miss a goal of of us actually scoring, which was a fucking disaster. But before we do get in, it was to the first goal that was scored early on. Obviously, we'll do the team news. It was relatively the same as the week was a previous, but I'll just go through it again. We had Clark in goal, Atkinson, Hill, Civic and Rose at the back, Devlin and Haring in the centre, and we had Oda, Shanks, Forrest, and Gino up at the front line. The only change being was a Forrest in, and Barry Mackay dropped for the Rangers in a counter. I guess that's a good a place to start as any. Was that a fair shout to drop the Kai? Do you feel, Alan?
Think so. I think I kind of agreed with it when I saw the team news for that. But it's something that kind of I've said to a few people the last few weeks, that it's an area of the pitch that we are quite light in. And as much as Barry Mackay can be inconsistent, which he can be, particularly away from home, which I think is probably one of the reasons he didn't play at Ibrox, he's not, well, he's not consistent enough, as I say, but he doesn't have a real competitor for that position on the pitch. And as much as I like Forrest, I'm not sure of his long term future with Hearts. But obviously we'll go into that at some stage. But Yeah, aside from that, obviously Cochrane was missing due to his ban. So Kai Rolls was put out at left back, which was a bit of a surprise to me, but he did relatively well. So I don't know if that had something to do with Forrest being picked in front of him because, Forrest is maybe wee bit more defensive, maybe, or a wee bit more, I don't know, maybe a bit more of a hard worker or a bit more of a runner, perhaps, to help Rolls out a bit. But yeah, the team news was kind of as expected, to be honest. When I saw it, the only kind of surprise, as I say, was Kai Rolls at left back because I had sorry, I had fear of Kai Rolls up against a Sakala. Sakala's got a bit of pace about him as we saw during the game. So I was a wee bit kind of worried about that. But yeah, I thought Rolls had a relatively reasonable game, to be honest, considering he's out of position for most of it.
Hmm. And like, I mean, I would be inclined to like agree with you. Like, I mean, what was it like I said, with roles being of was it of like a more was it central based the defender. It's not that he's not got any pace, but it's more again like the more like was it I kind of like agility to actually like sort of like run like backwards and forth from I was at the down that that left hand side, but as you like, I do agree that he did relatively well. And obviously, like as we said at the start, it didn't take long to open the scoring within the first 60 seconds, which again, absolutely fucking ridiculous. It was a bit of a was it toss and turn for that first goal. It was a long throw in from Hill, if I'm right in saying, and again there was a lot of like sort of was a backwards and forth between the defenders Shankland and Janelli, and was a luckily Shanks was a managed to poke home the first goal of the game as well. And again, lo and behold, we can't go through any game without VAR getting involved. Um, but saying that at the same time, I was still a bit confused as to why VAR had to get involved. Was like, did they say that was apparently um an offside where even though it was being checked for offside, there was two Rangers players in front of Shanklin, like for the
Yeah,
actual.
yeah, I didn't get it either. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know what the. I feel like at this point, I feel really old saying this, but I don't even know what the offside rule is anymore. Like genuinely, like because there's a Rangers defender on the line, and then there's McGregor who's in goal for Rangers,
Hmm.
and then I think it was the young lad King that was the next defender. So I don't know if the offside was from King or from the defender on the line, because if it
Hmm.
was, then it's not offside.
Exactly.
But he wasn't offside anyway, to be
No,
honest.
exactly.
Regardless of where you drew the line, he wasn't offside. Um, but yeah, it took them forever to come to that conclusion that it was a goal. But referees, VAR, all the wonderful things of Scottish football in this season. Um, the thing for me that was the most, well, not impressive, but it's certainly something that seems to be very effective, and we've said it before because he's done it before, was the long throw
Hmm.
from James Hill. Obviously, the loanee is away back down to Bournemouth now, and I've kind of gone backwards and forwards on whether I would have him back next season.
Oh, you have.
Yeah, but he's actually, I have to be honest, since Naismith's come in, he's looked a very, very good defender. I think it's again, I don't want to go into too much because I'm sure we'll talk about it probably further on or maybe next week or whatever. But yeah, the long throw is definitely a weapon that can be used, and it was
Yeah.
used well in that instance, and it was a brilliant start, the perfect start. Obviously, we, for context, obviously everybody knows we had to get a win if Aberdeen won, or we had to, if Aberdeen dropped points, we needed to win. So it was good to start in that way. But even from the kickoff, like we went forward straight away. It was passing forward rather than looking backwards and trying to keep the ball, which I thought was quite nice as well.
Yeah, I mean, was it like just like in a context for the first half in general. Just from watching this compared to the last time we played at Ibrox, obviously we were still under with Robbie. You could see visually that there was a was a difference. Like throughout the rest of the first half, like once we scored the actual goal, granted, like it being in the first was 60 seconds, but I didn't feel as if we were like once we scored the goal, it wasn't a case of right, let's just put everyone behind the ball and just like sort of
Yeah,
defend that lead. Like we were actually like trying to create like sort of like was the spaces to actually get at them. The players weren't geared to was it what was it to shy away to actually take it for a run. Which again, I found quite quite impressive as well to actually get at like at was it Rangers as well, like throughout that first half. Would you agree again? I mean, does like again we will either talk about it throughout the episode or for next week as well. But does this maybe improve? Was it Naismith's chances of actually were they getting the job on a permanent?
it has to. I think you can look at like, I mean, again, like we say, without going down too much of a rabbit hole, but like every game of the split that we've played, or that we obviously the season's finished now, but every game we've shown flashes of what Naismith wants the team to do. Um, and we've been hampered by poor VAR decisions, poor refereeing, or individual errors that have cost us goals.
Hmm.
Um, or the first 45 minutes against St Mirren, which was horrendous. But um, yeah, like I think it's just nice to see us go there and stand up and say, well, actually, we're here to play a game of football. We're not here to just sit back and defend for 90 minutes or for however long we were going to. Obviously, at points you're going to have to do that at Ibrox, and we had to do it in the second half. But it was like you say, it was just nice to watch a team go to Ibrox and actually say, right, well, why can't we come here and play how we want to play? Because other teams have done it. I've seen other teams go to Ibrox and take points this season because they've gone there and they've just went, well, what what are we worrying about? It's like, I mean, obviously different, but it's like St Mirren against Celtic when they went to Parkhead recently and came away with a point. It's the same thing. Okay, Celtic had kind of down tools at that point, but why shouldn't a team go through to Glasgow and just say, right, we're here to play a game of football? And I know obviously the game had a lot of meaning to it because we needed to get a result. So maybe that had a big factor in it. Maybe if we needed a different result, it might have changed the way that Naismith had played it. But yeah, it was just really, really refreshing and really enjoyable. And obviously Shankland, we didn't even mention it, but that was his 28th goal of the season.
Aye, you
28th.
had to bring it up, eh?
Yeah.
You had to bring it up.
No, I know. Well, he was close. He was close.
Well, I mean, mate, like if somebody said at the start of the season before we actually brought in Shankland to say that he was going to score 28 goals and break that the record from the Robo by 8 goals, mate, like I would have laughed at you. But just to kind of put more, kind of was it was it evidence for Naismith to have a strong case? Was it to be was it in the hot seat for next was a season as well? Anybody that wants to call was it Alfredo Morelos a prick when he's in the dugout, mate? That is a manager I want to have in my dugout. Um,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
as you said, Alan, so like I mean, I thought the first half was relatively even. I would like I don't think that's too far of an argument to make. Obviously a bit was it disappointing to lose like a goal literally just before the first half and just to kind of like prove your case for James Hill as well, who was it did a Phil Jones, like was it to. I mean, if my mind remembers rightly, I think he did slip, which, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
was it can happen? But you do. I mean, I know you're not the biggest fan of him, but you do have to give a bit of a credit to Todd that was a Canwell. Like, he did take the goal quite well. No, okay, so no bother.
He did. He did.
Move on.
He's just made to play for Rangers, isn't he? Like Cantwell. He's just got a Rangers player look about him already. He's only been there 5 minutes. But I like the goal itself. It was annoying because we had the ball in the Rangers box, and I think it was laid off to I can't remember who laid it off, but there was an opportunity for someone to have a shot, and it just didn't get to them. And Rangers broke, and Cantwell ran, and James Hill, like you say, I think he was going to go one way and then realised he had to go the other and he just tripped. But look, fair play to him for trying to get something on it, albeit it was his head on the floor. But he was trying something. And Cantwell, yeah, as much as he had, it just, he annoys me. But it was a good finish, I have to say. And it was, like you say, it was my favourite. It was frustrating because up until that point, I thought, you know what, we've actually been all right here.
Yeah,
But
no, no,
going in at halftime 1-1, you're sort of thinking this is only going to go one way now, unfortunately.
for sure.
Because it's just the mentality, isn't it? Like I'd love to say at halftime I was thinking, we can get an early goal and we'll get back in it. But at halftime at 1-1, I think I said to you, I was like, this Rangers could come out and put us away. Although they were sort of treating it more like a testimonial for players that were leaving, which I thought was a bit random. But anyway, it's what it is.
I know, man, exactly. I mean, the first half, in terms of the goals scored, kind of mirrored the second half. Obviously, it didn't take Rangers too long to get right back in it. Um, and I'm going to hand this over to you because I know that we've been was praising him all year, but your man was a Toby Civic. You have to admit it, he made an absolute howler of that one.
Yeah.
But this is second goal for Akala. Again, if I remember it rightly, I don't know if he was trying to head it back to was it the to was it Clark, or if he just didn't really get enough on it to actually get was it to him. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like the two goals that we gave away were just was a basic mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what Civic was trying to do. I don't even think he knew what he was trying to do, to be honest. It just seemed to sort of hit him on the top of his head for some reason. Just misread it or whatever. But yeah, like like we say, like starting the second half in that way is not a good way to be. Naismith said it after the game, the individual errors are what cost us, and he was right. You know, that goal in particular. I can forgive James Hill to an extent for falling over because these things happen, but Civic was in control of that moment. You know, he just needed to get the header right, and he got it so spectacularly wrong. um, and Sakala just went in. And to be fair, and again, you said it, I'm not his biggest fan. At least James Hill was trying to slide back and trying to get it off the line. I'll give him that. You know,
Aye.
he did attempt to get it off the line. He just misjudged the slide and didn't quite get there in time. But yeah, just a gutting way to start the second half. But in some ways expected. Like I said, it was one of those I kind of thought, yeah, this is probably going to get away from us now. When they scored the second goal, I'm thinking, okay, right, could be a long second half.
I think it was like at that point we said right up there like listen, I got another round in, and but yeah,
Uh,
obviously by that point as well, I think it was the first half that it happened anyway, but Aberdeen were up against St was a Mirren as well. St Mirren also had a man was sent off as well. So, and with us being 2-1 down at that point, I think most Heart fans, I mean, well, you accepted it like fucking weeks ago, but I think most Hearts fans like at that point was like, yeah, I think this is pretty much done now in terms for third place. But again, I thought the second half was very. I'd like to say that we put up a bit of a fight, but I think like Rangers dominated more. That was the second half as well. Um,
Yeah.
and but like you said, Alan, I think there was a bit of a was it the time was a delay from where we were watching it because as we got into injury time, we were literally just about to leave as well. And it wasn't until was it your mum that texted you? And she went like the most randomest text. She went, "Yes, what the fuck's happening?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "What the actual?" And then of all the
It's true.
players to fucking pop up and score, who hasn't really was a featured on there's was it Naismith? Our like that's the only real
Forgotten
thing he
man.
done all year. And mate, I'll take it forever. Was it our back down to Newcastle? Moni was a Garang cool to pop up and just score the, the winner right at the death. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit strange as well because like I mean, it's not that I wasn't happy about it, but obviously like at that point, like it didn't mean much because obviously it was Meridian had won, but it was quite nice to actually went. Oh, we've actually none. Was it taken from I Brock? So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely like cool. Like you said, he's barely done anything since he's been at Hearts, but you know, in terms of game time anyway. But yeah, it was nice to see him doing something, nice to see him being effective in some way. Um, but yeah, it did. It kind of, I mean, like you say, it was a great moment. It was a great way to end the game because it was like, well, you know, we I think we played enough to deserve something out of
yeah,
it. I do think the second half we kind of dropped it a little bit. I think I said it to you in the pub that we've totally lost the heads. I think the whole Morelos being a little shit thing and Naismith giving him some back was a wee bit of emotion was flying around,
of
and
course,
some of the players did switch off and make silly fouls and silly mistakes, but we managed to hang on, and it's one of those, even a 2-1 defeat, like, okay, I'm not going to say he would have taken a 2-1 defeat, but if we'd lost the game 2-1 and played how we played, I would have still said, well, it's not bad. You know,
right?
it's some of the best play that we've had at Ibrox for a long time. So to have Cool come on and get a goal right at the end was really, really pleasing. And I think I was happy for him more than anything else,
Yeah,
because you know it's not been a great loan spell for him in terms of game time, but you know he's come on and at least he's got a goal. You know, he's his first goal in British football, before he goes back down to Newcastle and they loan him out again next year. I think they've said they're keen to loan him out again, so that's maybe another conversation that we could have next week or whenever. But yeah, it was just nice to see him come on and do something. And a good goal. You know, he just sort of poked it home, but he was the one that started it off. He made the run and then passed it in, and I think it was Gino that sort of laid it back to him, but it came off a few Rangers defenders, and he just fell back to his feet and scored it. But yeah, it gave the Hearts fans something to celebrate that had gone through, so that was nice.
Absolutely. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only point that we've gotten against both of the old firm sides this season. So I believe so. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think
yeah.
you're
It's
right.
like you know, I mean,
We've not
like
had
you
a
know,
good record against them this
no,
season.
no, but still, like you know, for Naismith to well come away with that as well, even after like the short time he's actually been here, like you know, what I mean, you know, that shows
Yeah,
you know the style of football like he wants to play. You know, so again, as we said at the start, I don't think it's actually nailed on for Naismith, but like I mean, he's probably got a good chance as any to was it
hmm
I get the hot seat. I mean, just before we move on to the Hibs game, obviously, like you said, like you know, we'll probably talk about it a bit more in depth throughout next week. But for both Cool and Hill, one like just was as a short answer. Would you and can you see them being loaned back to Hearts next season? And would you want to have them back here next year?
could see it. I could see it. It'll depend on what Bournemouth want to do with Hill, because cool, it sounds like Newcastle want to loan him out again. So I could see that happening. But yeah, I think I could see it. Would I want them to? I would like them to, because I think Naismith with a full preseason, I think this 7 games has been sort of like an addition for Naismith to get the job. And if he gets it in the summer, I think preseason's going to be interesting. And I think, it'll give him more time to drill into the players what he wants to do. And as I say, I think Hill in particular has probably been one of those players over the last few weeks that has actually looked a lot better.
Yeah.
So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But you ask me, would I like them back? Probably, as squad options. Can I see it? Maybe. But yeah, I think these things are all sort of interesting conversations to have, and I have a feeling that Naismith gets the job. To be honest with you, and it'll be up to him to decide whether he wants them to be back or not.
Yeah, like I mean, personally, like I mean, for Hill and for a Cool, I think personally, I think Cool would probably want to maybe have a loan spell, maybe down south to try and like adapt to the game, like sort of down there. Like I mean, if he wants to be part of that, like sort of new the castle just sort of like journey, so that would probably to him like sort of better. With Hill, I could probably see more of a chance him was he coming back as well. I mean, who knows? I mean, I know that Bournemouth bought him for like 1 million, so whether we would want to make that like a permanent deal. I mean, if we manage to do it with like with a Cochrane from with like from it was a Brighton. I mean, it could maybe be a possibility, but as you said, we'll find out was quite soon as we get more into pre-season as well. So we'll look out for that. And we're going to move on to the final game of the season, which was obviously the last Edinburgh Derby of 2022-23. I think I have to give you a bit of the credit, Alan. Granted, he didn't score the winner of the game, but arguably he did put away the goal that's secured us fourth place, and that is our Japanese was a superstar Yataro Oda finally getting his first goal of the season since he like arrived at Hearts. Again, just to mention that was it that it was a thunderbolt of a throw from Hill. Uh, was it managed to lay down to Oda's feet, as we've been saying with Naismith trying to encourage him to shoot more. Last day of the season puts it away against Hibs. Not a bad we finish, although you have to take into account that the Hibs defense on that was absolutely pish.
It was. I said it like I mean I said lots of things before the Hibs game. I said that we would pump him, and I was obviously mistaken. But I did say that Oda would score, and I'm delighted that he did. I think Naismith pointed it out as well, basically saying that it's great that he's got his goal now because he's been so desperate to get one,
Yeah,
and so to get it last day of the season so that it's not hanging over him into next year.
of course.
Um, but yeah, it was actually like he just hits it early, and it kind
Mm.
of just goes through bodies, and Marshall proves that he's not a very good goalkeeper. Doesn't see it, and it just creeps in. But it was a
Mm.
brilliant start to the game to get a goal again early, like we did against Rangers. Again, the long throw. We've just spoken about James Hill and whether we'd have him back. I think the long throw is definitely something worth having. I don't know if there's other players in the team that can do it, but he certainly seems to have a knack for it.
No, man, exactly. I mean, like it was the thing. So I think it was a day or two after the actual game was the game itself. So throughout the last like sort of was it 7 games that Odd has been more was it featured in the actual games. You can see that he's starting to get a bond like sort of with the Hearts fans themselves. And as each game went on, you could see the quality that he has got, like to take that into next was a season as well. I mean, just to kind of put a point on the that sort of was an ever growing sort of bond with the fans as well. It was the link you sent me, as he got was a man of the match, for the actual game. To ever learn your first was a piece of English, to say "mon the corgi," absolutely
Yeah.
tremendous.
I got the I think it was the sponsors man of the match, and it was in the hospitality after it, and his wee translator was there, and Scotty Wilson was there, so it was nice to hear him saying that. But yeah, he's gorky as fuck, his wee Yoda. I'm just delighted. Like I say, I'm so happy for him to get a goal. I don't think I've ever been happier to see a player score their first goal because of the impact he's had since he's come in. Like I've been
Absolutely.
saying it for weeks. I'm like, I want him to get a goal. I want him to get a goal. And then he's obviously come close a couple of times recently. So to get it against Hibs and to help us start in that way was always nice.
Absolutely. But obviously it didn't last too long as well. Obviously we're going to be talking about this a wee bit. Obviously you and me have different opinions on the arguably the biggest was it on field event of the actual day. But to your credit, you're probably right. But so obviously um Hibs, it was a caught us on the counter about half an hour in, and the Cochrane, again, I didn't even bother to actually learn the name of the Hibs player. Was it that he took down? But Rose got it, was a caught out, was it at the back, and then was a Cochrane took down the Hibs player, to um, was a giveaway, a free kick, and then subsequently his yellow card got put to VAR, and then got turned into a red. But what my reservations are about it, so obviously he got sent off for taking down a player for a scoring opportunity, and arguably being the last man as well. However, my only kind of beef with that is that when I watched the highlights, technically he was in line. I think actually Rose was actually in front of him, um, when he I was took down the Hibs player. And to be fair, I mean, obviously I was going to be slightly biased about it, but to be fair, the challenge itself, any other day of the week, I thought the referee got it right the first time. But in your eyes, what was the actual the reason itself that it got all overturned? Was it to a red? Because I'm more was it interested to what your opinion was on it.
Think it's one of those ones that it did look very harsh, to be honest. But I think in case of like the rules of the game and the way it's meant to be, I think it's the double jeopardy kind of rule,
Mm.
whereby the referee initially gives the penalty and doesn't send off Cochrane because that's how it's meant to be. If you give a penalty, that's the punishment. You don't send the player off. And VAR obviously reviewed it, because the tackle or the contact was outside the box, so it's a free kick and therefore a red card. Um, Again, like I say, it was one of those that you could debate back and forward constantly, whether it should or shouldn't have been. Um, I think it was maybe the right decision though, only just as much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But I think, it is something again that we'll probably touch on later down the line. But I love Alex Cochrane. I think he's a fantastic young player. He's probably second in my player of the year. behind Shanks and only slightly marginally ahead of Gino. But he is prone to little errors and little reds that are avoidable,
Yeah,
and that was another one. He's only just back from a ban, and he's obviously going to serve another one now when the season starts. So yeah, very very irritating. Red to get, didn't have to do it, but then he's trying to win the ball. He's trying to stop the Hibs player attacking, and you can't fault him for that. But it's just the way it was done. Again, it's like we said about the Rangers game, the individual mistakes that cost us again. But yeah, Cochrane has been prone to a few of them, so he needs to, if he's still with us next season, which whether he will or he won't, time will tell, and let's wait and see. But he needs to cut that out. But he's still a quality defender, and I'm not going to hold it against him too badly.
absolutely not, Alan. But again, that obviously was a change the dynamic and the game plan was it like if you will obviously as you said Hibs got free kick just outside the box as well, and again you can probably was a shout at me for this as well, but I actually thought it was a relatively clever free kick. Was it? Obviously, you naturally expect most players in that was it position to try and go with was the top bins, but it caught was a clock out, and then was a Nisbet scored from the free kick and to the bottom of the corner, but as you said, and what most Hearts fans said, was it going to celebrate like an absolute fucking fanny, thinking that he's just scored the was a winning goal of the was it a Scottish Cup final, but
Yeah,
after
just
that, Alan,
fucking stupid. Just
obviously
fucking
was it
stupid.
as they scored down to 10 men as well. What were your thoughts at that point? Because I'll be very honest, I was very, very nervous, very nervous at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think again, like we said, in terms of like the permutations of the game, like Hibs needed to win to get above us to get fourth place and all that. So it was it was theirs to win it. Um, when we went down to 10, as much as I hate saying that, they were
Mm.
probably the favourites to then go on and win it. Um, but yeah, it was. It's funny because typical Edinburgh derbies are always like this. There wasn't a lot of football played because there wasn't. Um, you said it at the start. There was a lot of shithousery, which there was, mostly from Harp's point of view. To be fair, I have to say. But again, you know what? You do these things. You know, it's an Edinburgh derby. It's a rivalry. If it's going to be, sanitized and all the players are just going to run around and all be happy as happy campers, it's not. There's no passion in that, and it was a passionate derby. You could see it.
Yeah,
Hearts wanted to make sure that Hibs finished below them, and Hibs were trying to win it to get above us. But Xander Clark had a few things to do, but I don't think he was particularly busy, as much as Hibs did control the majority of the game. But the stat that made me laugh the most was that we had one shot on target in the whole game,
and we
and
scored
I
it.
think I think they had about six or seven, and only managed one goal. But yeah, like there was obviously lots of stuff that happened at the end that we'll talk about, but Hibs were very physical, just as much as we are. But that's what derbies are for. Haring went down again. I've seen the foul a few times, and I can't remember the Hibs player that makes the foul, but don't think he got punished for it. I could be wrong. He might have got a yellow, but I don't think he got anything. And Haring had to go off. I think it was another head knock again, so
Oh
hopefully he's
Christ
okay.
Almighty!
I know. We might not see him till next Christmas, but
No,
who knows? But yeah, like it was. We were always going to be hanging on, down to 10 men. But Hibs, as we know, don't win derbies that matter. Um, so, in as nervous as I was, I felt like, you know, we could do it. We could hang on. Obviously, I wasn't there, so I was, maybe slightly more privileged to not have to sit in the stands and bite my fingernails. But yeah,
oh Christ!
I was keeping an eye on updates, and I thought yeah, the chances are Hibs are probably going to get a goal from somewhere. But
Mm.
the longer it was going, and obviously I know there was lots of injury time and all that sort of stuff, but I didn't really worry too much about not getting something. I know that sounds a bit mad, but as I say, Hibs are Hibs, and yeah, I didn't. I was worried to an extent, but not overly. Put it that way.
I get you, Alan. I get you. Well, as you mentioned them there, like again, like we're gonna do um a longer episode next week, but I just did want to was a touch on them because obviously was it in the second half especially was it Xander Clark had a bit of work with like to do as well, like he made some good saves as well. I think at one point during the second half as well, Hibs hit the post, but just from the camera angles as well, like it was a save that like I kind of rattled off the bar, which I think at that like sort of heart split second, I think the Clark looked at the back of the net to then see it go out. It was just absolutely mental. But just a quick, like a kind of was a roundup on him. I mean, how do you think he had done since like was a Gordon like was it went out like for the rest of the season? Do you think he's the goalkeeper to kind of move like forward with especially now that Ross Stewart like is now like left the club as well, and do you feel as if he could be a good I was a keeper to look up to now for was it Harry Stone now that effectively until Gordon where he comes back he is now the new was a number two now.
Think so. I think so. I like Xander Clark. I think he has these moments and he has his little issues that, he's got strengths and weaknesses in his
Yeah,
game, as does every player. But I really like Xander Clark. I think it's a very intelligent piece of business that we did. I think he's probably up there with signing of the season, maybe
yeah,
aside from Shankland, obviously, who's gone and scored a bucket load of goals. But I just think that obviously when we signed Xander Clark, we didn't know that Gordon was going to be injured
of
for
course.
the rest of the season. We didn't know that. But bringing in a backup goalkeeper, the quality of Xander Clark, who's actually been named in the Scotland squad. I know that's of no interest to you, but he's been named in the latest Scotland squad for the next two qualifiers. So it shows you the level
Yeah,
that he is. So yeah, I mean, when Gordon got injured, I was never worried about the backup because I knew
no,
Xander Clark's a quality goalkeeper, and he's certainly shown it in the games that he's played in. Um, I don't think he'll ever be as much of a fan favourite as Craig Gordon, obviously, because Gordon's got history with Hearts. But I really like Xander Clark, and I
yeah,
think next season, whoever the manager next season, he should be the number one, because he's got the ability and he's in the squad, and he's obviously a very very good option to have. Cheesy, as you say, is away, and we're kind of circling towards the kind of scenes at the end of the game. So I'll give a massive shout out to Cheesy because apparently I don't know if it was during the game or after, but apparently he threw a hot water bottle at the Hibs bench, which, as far as like ways to go out, I'm delighted about that. Like I just there's something about that just screams cheesy. I don't know what it is.
mate.
It's just of
The
all the things to do.
mate, the fact that that's probably the only good thing he's done since he's been here at that actual club, mate, he'll go down as a legend in my book for the rest
Yeah.
for the rest of the
Oh,
time that I am like alive.
oh, definitely.
Like mate, it was absolutely like because like we're going through was it all the comments of the clips shown like throughout on was it Twitter as well, you know, all basically like was it as we're talking about it now we'll get into it, but the scenes after the game were just ridiculous. It's not anything I've seen since I've been watching Hearts, like and was it and like was it for Derby that I watched as well, but going through like because obviously the main one was between was a Naismith and was a Johnson as well. But when I saw that somebody had put like apparently Ross Stewart had threw a hot water ball at fucking Lee Johnson, absolutely scenes for days. Like that man,
Oh,
like you said, for all as
it's
much as
just ridiculous.
he was brought in to be a good, I was a presence around the squad. Like you couldn't write it. Like you could not write it. Absolutely brilliant. But yeah,
He's justified he's justified his
oh
wages now,
yeah,
in my opinion.
100%. Absolutely could not agree more. But yeah, so again, I mean, we can start as soon as the whistle blew. Um, Again, there's been a mixture of words said after the match from both was the managers as well. From what I see, and you probably agree, was a Naismith a ghost to shake was a Johnson's hand. Obviously, there's was going to be words thrown like sort of backwards and forwards for the game as well. But
Yeah.
as Naismith goes to walk away after the handshake, mate, I'm no fighter. I've never punched anybody in my life, but I could do a much of I was a better job than that pansy arse throw that was made by Lee Johnson. Like, what was that?
Yeah.
If you could,
I just
just
yeah.
I'll go on, Alan, please.
I don't know what, like, that whole scene was just bizarre. It was like you say, like, both managers shook hands, and obviously Naismith learned from the Aberdeen game where he forgot to shake hands with Barry Robson. So he gets obviously a bit emotional because he's obviously seen his team get a point
Mm.
in a game they've had to work very hard for. And he goes and shakes hands with Lee Johnson. And I don't know what Johnson's thinking. I don't know if it's obviously just been a pent up emotion of the game or whatever, or something's been said by somebody or whatever. But Naismith sort of turns around and they kind of have a little bit of, to and fro, and all the coaching staff get involved. And Toby Sibbick seems to be the Hearts player that's kind of at the front of it all, in the centre circle, because it all just kicked off out of
Aye.
nowhere. And I'm not saying that Hearts are innocent in this, because we're
No, no,
not.
no.
Um, but yeah, it was just very bizarre. Like, the whole thing just seemed very strange. And as I say, we were celebrating the fact that we managed to get a point. I'm never one to celebrate a draw because I don't like celebrating draws,
No.
particularly against Hibs. I'd much rather win. But I think there was an element of the celebrations from the Hearts players where it was like, we're celebrating because we finished above Hibs. We're celebrating because, okay, we're not third, but we're still in European football. And they're celebrating because they had to work bloody hard to get that point.
Mm.
But yeah, like the comments after the game were even funnier. It was like Lee Johnson said to the Sky interviewers something about, oh, it's two managers that don't like each other. And Stephen Naismith just comes on and they ask him the same thing. And he just goes, what? It's like, not interested, which I thought was really good.
Absolutely.
I have to say, Naismith actually does really well to kind of avoid it all. And when it was all kicking off, you didn't see Naismith there. You saw his coaching staff
Ah,
and you
yeah.
saw his players, but Naismith was just kind of applauding the fans. And obviously, because, up until right now, obviously, this is 5:15 on Monday. There's not been any announcements as to Naismith's future. He might get the job, he might not. So he was maybe just in that moment, just lapping it up, thinking this could be the last time I get the chance to do this. Because in as much as we, or certainly I, would like Naismith to get the job, there's no guarantee that he does.
No.
But we'll wait and see. I have an inkling that he probably will, but equally, if he doesn't, whoever does get it, they're going to have to do well, because I think a lot of fans have been kind of swung on Naismith a little bit. Obviously, I won't dive too deep into it, but the negative against him is 7 games, 2 wins. You know, it's not a great record, let's be honest. But I think not just the results, I think performances and I think the things that he's said have got fans thinking, yeah, do you know what? I could see a Hearts where Stephen Naismith is the manager.
Mm.
But yeah, that whole scenes at the end was just bizarre. I'm sure I read that the SFA are going to have an investigation into it. what happened and all the rest of it. But yeah, like there was a few. There was Rocky Bushiri was at the Hearts bench having a go. I saw a picture of Craig Gordon just laughing at him, which I thought was really funny. I saw, to be fair, I saw a lot of Hearts players just
Aye,
laughing. I saw Boyce, and did you see Boycey in the middle of
I
it just
saw him.
laughing as
Brilliant.
well? It's like, do you know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing? Like, Hibs should have won that game. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. We went out to 10 men. Hibs should have won that game. The fact that they didn't, that's why all the Hearts players are laughing at them. You know, I don't know if you saw it, but Gino on his, I think it was his Instagram or something after the game, put a picture of like the dressing room, the Hearts home dressing room, and it
Yeah.
had like all the crates of beer in it, and he was like 10 men, no problem, or something like that. And it goes back to what I said. Hibs don't win derbies that matter. They don't. And we had 10 men and they still couldn't beat us. So do you know what I mean? Like it's yeah, but the scenes at the end were very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, I
Funny,
mean,
but very strange.
yeah, no, no, man, exactly, but true. I mean, as you said, I think they're. I mean, like, I think the SFA are going to do an investigation. I think there will be a few more the red cards. I was thrown out for the both teams, so Cochrane
Yeah,
probably won't be the only one that's out for the start of the year. But yeah, concerning Naismith, I thought what he did in terms of just was walking away from the situation was smart. Like you mentioned in the
yeah,
post match that you know he personally was wanting to avoid like another yellow card as well because he's had a few was it and he's was it 7 games as well so like you know what I mean to
yeah,
like avoid that
yeah,
but yeah again like we've mentioned that there was quite a few times like we'll go into a bit more in depth next week but there is a part of me that would be intrigued to see what a Naismith team would be like with like in regards to like to was a preseason transfers that he wants to like bring in players that he would want to see go. Yeah, like I mean, I I I would say I'm more intrigued than not. Um,
yeah,
if he were to get named as the full time was a manager, then I'm not was going to be unhappy about it. Granted, I will be a bit. I wouldn't go as far to say as was cautious, but obviously you're going to have that like sort of like that kind of nagging thought where you like like his first main job was it as a coach. Yeah, granted, it'd be great to see a lot was it of the younger players be more involved as well in the actual games, but yeah, I'm more inclined to agree with you that I could probably see Naismith as the full time. I was a manager for next year, but as you say, only time will tell. But I think what an article that I read, I think it was the Daily Mail, how like was it reliable it is, I don't know, but I think it said that Hearts want to get this kind of done within a week or two, so we're probably going
yeah,
to hear was it something quite soon, so we'll
yeah.
look out for that as well. But just to kind of wrap it off, Alan, obviously you don't have to go into too much depth. I'm probably going to name the word that springs out, but just to kind of wrap it off, how have you found the this was it season in terms of the events that have happened? Ridiculous scorelines. Was a manager's been sacked? The shithousery at the end of the Hibs game just there. What would be your few words just to a cap off what a season this has been?
Think it's been a frustrating
There you
season.
go.
But I think it's and I said this to you in the pub. I feel like this season's gone on forever. I feel like
Oh
this season's
mate,
lasted about
decades,
2 years.
decades.
It's the World Cup in the middle of it made it seem very strange. So yeah, like you say, it has been a very, very interesting season for multiple different reasons. I'll have to go back and listen to the first episode of this season that we did, but I think I said I would take a fourth place finish if it was a fight for it.
Hmm.
Um, Ultimately, we haven't had to fight for it. We've had to settle for fourth because we
Yeah,
chucked third away, which is the frustrating part. But yeah, it was, as I say, I can't say much more than it's been a frustrating season because I'd be here all night talking about it.
absolutely.
But yeah, like the summer will be interesting, like you say, whether it's Naismith or somebody else. They'll get my full backing, whoever they are, because that's what fans do. Obviously, I want Naismith to get the job because I've said that. I think if he doesn't get it, I don't see him being at Hearts next season in any capacity. And I don't mean that because I don't want him at Hearts. I think Naismith has got the bug of football management. And as much as some people will say, oh, put him back in the B team, let him work with the young players again, I don't think he'll want to do that now. I think he's got the bug for it. And I think if he's not given the Hearts job, I think he'll go and look for a job somewhere else.
I do agree with you. Like, I mean, my thoughts were like, if it doesn't work out, then he's still got the B team option there. But as you've just as I pointed out there as well, now that he's had a taste of it, he's probably going to want more. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could probably see that happening if it doesn't work out. But again, like all things, we'll just have to wait and see. And just to wrap things off as well, a bit of was it of an emotional end as well. Obviously, the club have departed with Ross Stewart, with Gary Mackay Stephen, and our faithful Mister Consistent, Michael Smith, after ending a 6-year run with the club. How much are you going to miss him, Alan? Personally.
I love him. I love Michael Smith. 6 years at the club, longest serving player. Criminal, we couldn't give him a trophy, but some of the
No.
absolute roasters he's played alongside, I'm not surprised.
Oh,
But yeah, Michael Smith is Mr. Consistent, and seeing him on the pitch talking about his career highlights at Hearts and all the rest of it, it was really really nice to watch. I hope he carries on playing because I think he can, and I think he
yeah.
said he wants to. But yeah, just an amazing servant and somebody that deserved a lot more than what he got, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Well, we would like to thank was it was it Smith and was it and the guy Stevens and the Ross Stewart. We do hope you all find the clubs real soon, and we would also like to thank you guys as well as we come to the end of the episode. So from myself and Alan, thank you very much for watching. As always, if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will be in the description as always. So from myself and Alan, we do hope the time goes fast until the next was the season starts. But until then, we will see you in the next one. You all take care. Bye for now.